soulless soul that has no helper at all. Maybe I'm just alone. I trust my gut, but I've never let it go so far now. I wanna know what you thought you had done when you allow me to be all the things that I'm not. Well, it seems like I'm caught every time you remind me. You're right to take away my pride, to burn it to the ground so we can start again. My crime is a legend to remind, to burn it to the ground so we can start again. So burn it to the ground. I lost the course, the fight to change my life. There seems no time for respite. Maybe you should just go. I changed my ways, but I never thought I'd find no time to hide in my mind. In the hope you would stay when you allow me to be all the things that I'm not. Well, it seems that I'm caught every time you remind me. You're right to take away my pride, to burn it to the ground so we can start again. My crime is a legend to remind, to burn it to the ground so we can start again.
Alright, do you know what? I was going to let that go on for another 10, till the end of the song, but I can't. There is too much, I think, pent-up frustration to let an intro song lead us into this live stream. Guys, welcome. You may notice I'm a bit wet. It's windy outside. I've had to sprint down to the office to get you this live stream, and boy, did I do so with a lot of haste. This was a disappointing loss, and not in the way that the Eagles should have won that game. I don't think the Eagles should have won that game. They didn't deserve to win that game. I said in the podcast, I don't think I would have bet them. Certainly, that like the +6 they opened up at, I wouldn't have touched that with a barge pole. I don't know what's happened. This feels very circa 2016, and this may be Doug Pederson's toughest task yet. Rallying this squad back together, back into a position where they can bounce back on a short week against Green Bay, who are, if we're brutally honest here, on an absolute tear right now. Guys, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure there have been some TVs smashed, there have been some words said, and some passing comments as well. But if you guys have got takes, if you want to talk about a certain thing, let me know. We'll have Thomas Ringard joining us soon. Shout out to Geordie Fighter 14 and the Thick Boy Mints. He's in the chat. Steph Cudi, Okami, Lorenzian Henderson says Eagles fans have more faith than this. I don't think, there's a difference between having faith and being objective and saying, hey, do you know what? This team is not in a position to win that game. So as I say that, I think we're going to have Thomas join the show momentarily, but I don't think this is a particular area. This shouldn't be something we're looking at here. Thomas joins the call. I'm sure he's going to be angrier than we've ever seen him before. But we've got, the initial comment in the chat is that people saying, wow, Eagles fans have lost faith already. Thomas, in as clean a language as you can, alright, we're talking PG, was there any reason for any kind of faith at all?
Hold on, I'm trying to get my Skype to work right here.
Okay, right, so Thomas is having tech difficulties, which is even less reason for faith. Let's just start off. One of the comments I saw at the start of this stream was 2 catches and we're 3-0. I get that, but then you can also say, imagine what the scores would have been had there not been 7 drops today, had there not been a bunch of turnovers, a bunch of penalties, a bunch of fumbles. There was too much wrong with this team. To me, feels like the 2016 Eagles. I said it last week, very much as, I think, a comparative statement in terms of the state of the offenses, but now we're seeing it from a mentality standpoint. It's the defense dragging the team back into it. It's Wentz dragging the offense down the field. And I know, okay, guys, I've messed the standings up. That's my bad. I beg your pardon for that one. They also maybe I just wanted to cheer you up a bit, alright? We'll put it down to that and a little bit less to reality. But Thomas, I know he's saying, I think he's got Skypool fixed. What did you see? Are you okay? Are you physically okay? Are you surviving?
I am sick already. So this was that was a tough game to get through. No, that was a tough game to watch. I think the defense held up pretty good. Well, we gave up 27 points. We gave up a long kickoff return touchdown. So all in all, we gave up 20 points in a game where Miles fucking Sanders was giving up 2 fumbles in awesome field position for the Lions. Nelson Aguilar gives up a fumble in great field position for the Lions as well. Just the fact that we only came away giving up 20 points is actually a little bit astounding to me when I look back on this game. The lack of pressure, sure. The lack of big plays. There wasn't a single fumble, not an interception. Nothing you could really come down. I mean, the block kick in the end, of course, that was a big momentum turner. But I think the defense overall did okay. Not great. It kept them in the game for most part. And what it really came down to was the offense just lacking any identity, any discipline, any consistency in catching a ball, staying consistent with the running game. You get Jordan Howard in there. He plows for a first down a couple times. He gets an easy touchdown for the first time Eagles have had any chance on the goal line drive. They put Jordan Howard in there for the first time in 3 weeks, and he pounds it in for the touchdown in the first attempt he gets. And then you don't use him anymore in the rest of the game. Like, I am blown away that you can have a rookie come in and be terrible in so many facets of the game, and then you say, all right, cool, let's go with you a bit more. Like, what was he even doing on kick returns? Like, why is it Miles Sanders back there, not Darren Sproles, returning kicks for the team? Like, he takes out a kick at the 2-yard line after hesitating, and a ball that could have gone either out of bounds or into the end zone. I was so frustrated watching Miles Sanders. I was frustrated watching Arcega-Whiteside at the end there, where he could have done the one thing that he does well, like really, really well, which is jump balls. He could have sealed the game at that point.
Also, I know Thomas, I know we can't see him, we've got some technical difficulties here we're trying to work through, but every cloud has a silver lining. I've just changed the standings so it's accurate, so Philadelphia are 1-2 and not 2-1. So there you go. See every cloud. But I think what you're saying is right. I mean, I think there is a lot more cause for concern than people are thinking. It's a difference between not having faith in the team and, again, being objective and seeing what's actually happening. And the offensive identity overall, it goes far beyond Miles Sanders. I mean, me and you specifically have been pounding the table for Jordan Howard since the end of preseason. That week 1, he's got to be the guy. That last week against that Falcons defense that was just torched, that, against Minnesota in the week before, that should have been the Jordan Howard breakout game. And this one should have been the Jordan. And instead, you've got Miles Sanders. But what's more concerning to me is the wide receivers. And I'm not talking the guys that aren't on the field in terms of Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, because when they're back, everything should tick along. It'll be great again. And it'll be like, best receiving corps in the NFL. But it's certainly not the deepest. And what worries me is that Matt Collins earlier this week said he prefers special teams to offense. And do you know what? When I watched his game today, I can see why. I think he's a fundamentally raw wide receiver. He's got a lot of great things to like. He's got a great catch radius, big body, some nice speed. But in terms of blocking, that's 2 in 2 weeks he's been called on now. There are a couple of plays that came back at his expense. I think there's some miscommunication there, so that worries me. And then you've got 2nd round pick, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, catching 7 balls in 2 weeks. No, he was thrown to 7 times, I beg your pardon. He's caught 2 of them for 14 yards. It's not good enough. It is not good enough from a 2nd round pick that is somewhat a jump ball specialist. And that's worrying. So, I mean, there's just so much to be overall disappointed with. I think it's the only one. And the hype was so high going into this year. I mean, is that fair to say that this wide receiving corps just is struggling right now? Is there a reason for this that we're overlooking here? Or is it time we finally look to Mike Groh and say, right, you're the offensive coordinator. This is now, you've had the year of excuses and the pass and the letting off. Pressure's building now, and the offense is doing diddly squat.
Yeah, it's not ideal when every bit of excitement in your passing game goes away once your 32-year-old wide receiver gets a little muscle injury, and then suddenly, boom, all your deep threat is gone. Your the big playability is basically gone. Of course, the Alshon Jeffrey injury doesn't help, but I mean, Alshon Jeffrey doesn't give you a deep threat as well. That was the problem last year as well. I mean, he's one of the guys that can help you move the chains, but he won't give you that quick strike. He won't give you that Marvin Jones over the middle 40-yard catch and run in man-on-man. I was hoping a little bit that Greg Ward would see the field.
Yeah.
Because he presents something that Matt Collins and JJ Arcega-Whiteside isn't. Like he's a speedy guy. What is he, 5'9" or 6, 5'11" or 6 foot.
Yeah.
Like he can take the top off, and he showed that in the preseason as well. So like he presents a different body than what they had, and they didn't use him. I was a little bit disappointed in that, but I mean, at the end of the day, the play was there. Arcega had to catch that ball. He was like, he didn't have any real contest on that catch.
There was no leap though. It wasn't like he jumped. Like we see him in these Stanford highlights where he's like leaping in the air. Hey, Darren Sproles got higher than Arcega-Whiteside at one point. Let's put that into perspective, right? Like Arcega-Whiteside should be winning those balls. You're absolutely right. And for some reason, whether it was underthrown or not, it wasn't there. But for me, the last 5 minutes of that game, I was like, do you know what? If the Eagles win this, they don't deserve to win. And my take was that I was like, do you know what? I'll go into tomorrow. I'll write a recap saying they got lucky because you go into a coaching situation, there's 2 minutes, 25 seconds left on the clock. All right, it is 4th and long, and you go for it, but not just go for it, but it's before the 2 minute warning. So you know you've got the 2 minute warning, you've got 3 timeouts. You're going to get the ball back. So you're going to give the Lions a short field, a chance to, if they played something a bit more aggressive, if they had a Doug Pederson mindset, could have iced that game there and then. They're extremely lucky the field goal was blocked. And then they get pushed inside the 30 in some stroke of the heavens field goal block and still can't come up with the win. Because it obviously gets pushed back with a penalty, goes back to discipline. They can't get out of their own way. And it's not just like, oh, it's penalties. It's everything. And you know what? There was a point made in an article that Morgan wrote earlier this week. By someone in the comments saying that it goes back to the Andy Reid days where the starters don't play preseason together and it takes 3 or 4 weeks to settle down to build that chemistry. I mean, is that something that we're seeing? It's not so much rust, but this complete lack of togetherness. Because then you've got a group that not only haven't been together in preseason, but it's dissipated by injury. It's decimated on the left side of the line.
The injury just keeps stacking up. I don't know what the significance level was of the Andre Dillard injury. Derek Barnett went out as well. I mean, yeah, sure, there are a lot of injuries, but a lot of teams have a lot of injuries. Like San Diego Chargers have a lot of injuries. I mean, they're playing good football. They're playing, like, the guys that come in are playing disciplined football. Like, it is not harder than you come in, you catch what is thrown to you, you take advantage of what is given, and you don't fumble the football. You don't turn it over. Eagles lost the turnover battle today, 3-0.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing. And the thing, I think, like, there's always that saying, right? Whoever wins the turnover battle wins the war. That's always, been the principle of football, whether it's you're looking after the ball on offense or being aggressive on defense. What I don't understand and I can't fathom is that within 2 plays in what must have been 5 different plays, Miles Sanders fumbled twice, and he still wasn't pulled out of the game. And it was still Miles Sanders being the guy. And you know what? He led the team in receiving today, which says a lot. He led the team in rushing today, which says a lot. And I don't get it. At that point, if you fumble once, you pull him out, you give him a talking to, you let Howard run. You don't keep him in there and keep rolling and rolling when, I mean, to me, I'm not discrediting him here because I think Sanders has got a great potential around him. Like, we know that. We've broken down the film. You've been around this channel. You know we're high on him. But he goes into that game and he gets 73 receiving yards on two great catches. The rushing, I think, there was 2 breakaway runs. Otherwise, it would have been another day of 2.3 yards per carry at the office. This is a very Wendell Smallwood-like performance. There's not much going on. There's too much going on behind the line of scrimmage. He'll break one runaway, and that saves his box score. And you're not giving it to who would have been a Ryan Matthews in 2016, a LeGarrette Blount in 2017. I just don't understand what the identity is in this backfield right now.
No, I wish I could tell you. Like, I wish that the obvious usage of the running backs was as clear to, Deuce, Doug. I don't know who's calling that. Like, I think it's pretty clear to basically everyone else that we see the potential in Miles. Mm-hmm. Don't push it. Like, use the guy who's already proven and that you can lean on, so that you don't have a rookie in there making mistake by mistake and getting hammered in the head by an entire fan base, because he will be hammered by an entire fan base. And And frankly, I think he deserves it as well. Like, I think he should have been pulled a little bit when he made the first fumble because it was bad. Instead of keeping him in there, and like I don't know how many carries did he have today?
I think it was 13 off the top of my head, and then Howard had 11.
Yeah. So I think that's. I was wondering at one point, like, has Miles Sanders single-handedly, aside from a Nelson Aguilar fumble as well, lost this game?
I think that's a bit too much of it. I mean, do you know what I think honestly cut this game a bit? I mean, Jim Schwartz is calling great games. That's happened twice in a row. The issue is that, do you know what? I think teams are finally caught up. The same way we saw teams catch up to the Chip Kelly offense, it works on defense as well. If you're going to play corners 10 yards away and you've got receivers that can catch underneath, you do it. And if the ball is coming out in less than 2 seconds, you can have Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack on the same line. They're not getting home. It doesn't matter. Like, if that ball coming out within a second on a slant or an RPO, you are not getting home to the quarterback. And we're seeing that as a bigger thing than ever, because if you press, you can make the argument Ronald Darby was victimized today again, which, shock horror. That's a problem, I think. They can't get off the field. But there was a really strong middle portion of the second half where the defense was holding strong. And it felt like when Darby was out of the game and the corners were getting more aggressive and Sidney Jones was down there and Maddox was chirping a bit, that they were beginning to make that. I think for me, it just comes down to offense. The offensive line looks shoddy. I think that the tight end, they're really missing Dallas Goedert. They're getting back this week. They can't utilise him. And all of a sudden, it just looks so unorthodox. And Wentz said that last week, it felt he was drawing plays in the sand. I don't know what we're going to say this week. But guys, let us know as well. And before we come and continue rattling on, we're going to be here for a long time. There's a lot to get through. Be sure to just drop a like. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. We'll read as many of your comments out as we can. Donovan Sandcastle says Sanders should have been benched the first time. Dollar Bill, now this is interesting, Tom, because I know you were talking about this before. Dollar Bill says Howie needs to make a move for Jalen Ramsey. Now, I had the opinion last week that if you've got a broken pipe, you don't get a new boiler. And I think you all now have that same opinion, where the problems that this defense has go far beyond getting an elite cornerback.
Yeah, I think it was about, like, I was smiling a little bit when Darby had the hamstring injury, and I know I'm a terrible person, but I really wanted to see Russell Douglas and Sidney Jones in there at the same time, and I was not disappointed in what I saw. I think it looked fine. I think right now there is so much going on this team. What you need so many things that. All right, so I imagine, like, you put in Jalen Ramsey. So what is that really the difference?
Well, no, because on the other side of the field, you've still got a cornerback playing 8 yards off the ball. So it's like, even if you have Ramsey pressing at the line of scrimmage, the weaknesses are still there. There's just one side it's minimised to, which is going to force traffic on the other area. So I don't know. I've been of that opinion all week. Like, I think that it would go a long way, and you know what? You might spike in production. But what's the one thing, Thomas, that this defense hasn't done since Jim Schwartz has arrived? Turnovers. They don't get them. They haven't for years. And it's because of the way they play cornerbacks. It's such a bizarre, I think, scheme. Like, it works so well, but at the cost of pass defense. And if you can't have an offense that keeps you in games, you can't. Like, you're going to lose. And I think what we're seeing now is very much 2017, the Eagles offense were dropping 50 burgers everywhere. Not a care in the world. Everything was sailing. It didn't matter about pass defense, because that conserved defense, you've got a team who are 2 scores down, clawing their way back in, having to pass every down. It's natural 3 and outs. What you're seeing now are teams controlling the Eagles. This team isn't built to be playing from behind, and that's a problem. So I'm very much of that opinion that if you put Jalen Ramsey in, unless you sharpen up on offense, you're not going to reap the benefits of an elite cornerback.
No, I think you're right. Would I be excited to see Jalen Ramsey come to the defense? Sure. He's a high-profile player, but you're going to pay so damn much for him. I mean, if you're going to surpass what the Baltimore Ravens reportedly offered, in which it was a first-round pick, second-round pick, and Hayden Hurst, then you got to go 2 first-round picks at least, and that is a lot, considering you have an offense where the offensive line is up and down, and you have injuries all around right now. Who knows how long Jason Peters is going to hold up? How long Jason Kelce is going to hold up? you have a receiving room that is one injury away from not being able to produce anything, drop every ball, not being consistent in a way that Carson has to put everything on himself, make heroic plays to get a third down conversion. You have a defensive line that is not getting any pressure. I mean, they get pressure, but they haven't produced anything. They don't get sacked, and ultimately, that's what you want. That kills a drive. The Eagles have not been able to kill a drive with pure pass rush in this season yet. You haven't invested in linebackers of any sort. A cornerback is obviously the position of need we're looking at, and safety. What depth is there behind McLeod and Jenkins? Yeah. So I can see needs all over this place, and I would not mortgage everything. A huge salary. Basically, you're the top of the draft for the next couple of drafts for one player who, sure, he's going to make a difference. I mean, he has to make a difference. He has to make a significant difference for what you're going to pay him. And I don't think that is going to change anything this season. But
it's interesting because I'm just kind of going through the chat now, guys. Again, if you're not subscribed yet, we host these live streams once a week. We normally have 2. Last week we were trying to reschedule a little bit, but we're going to have 2 live streams a week. There's podcasts, film breakdowns, everything you could want. So we'd love for you to join our little community here. But there was a very interesting point. Just going to try and scroll up and find it by Philly0024, who says, also, why do we go 5 wide in formation every other first down? And I think I counted, I made a note that in the first drive alone, that happened 3 times. There were 3 different occasions the Eagles went 5 wide. And is it just a case of trying to overcompensate for the lack of wide receivers, or just trying to get creative and give Wentz some sort of unorthodox matchup, like a Chris Hogan effect, or getting, running back split out wide? I don't know, but that was unusual, and obviously it's going to leave your line a little less vulnerable because you're not going to get the chip blocks from the tight ends. That worried me a little bit, so I'm glad I wasn't the only one that picked up on that. Did you notice a positive or negative of that?
With going empty sets?
Yeah.
So it was positive in a way that is not something they've done a lot of this season. They did it somewhat in 2018 when Carson Wentz came back. They did a lot of no huddle empty formations where Carson is basically just calling out what he wants. And it spiced up some things. And to be honest, I think it would have worked if people caught the fucking football. I'm sorry, I'm cursing on the stream.
It's gonna happen.
At one point, I'm saying, why is Carson Wentz why is he not able to finish games? Why is he always in this situation where he starts out slow and he can't finish a game? And I saw the stream where they brought up since 2018, some early. I don't know. He had 4 comeback wins or something like that. Well, if you go back to 2016, the number doesn't really improve. He's not been able to close out games. But then you look at the perspective of it, and you look at it into context of what his receivers are giving him. They're not catching the football. They're not moving the change. You have a 1st and 10, suddenly go into a 3rd and 10 because you got 2 drop passes. So suddenly you're the ability to even consider running the ball is way out of the way because you're always in these long situations because people are not goddamn catching the football.
It's annoying, and I think there's now becoming a bit of a debate. We've got Rotten Thomas coming up against Christopher Infante in the Philly Sports Network WrestleMania number 7 event. It basically is Carson Wentz at fault or struggling, and I don't think it is. I mean, his placement, I think, could be a little better. And as I've said, that Philly-style TV has just made that point as well. But all things considered, I think a lot of that was on timing, and you only get that through experience with the receivers. But he's not taking unnecessary risks other than when he's rushing the ball and he's diving forward. He took another hit to that knee today, which I'm sure on everyone's heart in their mouths. But in terms of a guy that is navigating the pocket, this is the best I've seen him inside the pocket, moving around, climbing the runs, and just keeping his feet at a firm base to throw the ball. He looks great from a mechanical perspective, much better than whatever the hell happened in that first half against Atlanta. I was really worried that would trot back up again. So I don't think that's the problem. It's just, as a quarterback, this is a test for Wentz as well. As a leader, right, this is the 1 week you galvanize that offense without your top 2 guys who you are going to target quite regularly. You're now leaning on Zach Ertz, who of course set a record last year for targets. It's an opportunity to galvanize the group you've got, to bring them together and put your trust in them. I didn't see that. And obviously we don't know what happens behind the scenes, and it's not fair to assume either way. But you've got to think, after 2 frustrating losses that should have been wins if they hadn't, shot themselves in the foot so many times, this has to be a Carson Wentz step-up moment as a leader, as a vocal guy in the offense, to bring that group together as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's also a lot of passes in this play where you just go like, what are you doing? Like they had a levels concept where they had Sproles going out to the flat, and you had Ertz going in a 5-7 yard out and something like that, and they wanted the corner to bite on either. And Carson, he floats one. It looks like it's intended for Sproles, but Semi intended for Ertz as well. And then he just throws it so badly it's almost picked up by Slade. That's the one where he pulled out with the hammy, right? That's a throw you just go, huh?
Yeah.
But then he also he put out a couple dimes as well. Like the two long Miles Sanders catches could have easily been touchdowns had the ball been placed a little bit better. But I mean, to get mad at 40 and 35 yard gains is also a little bit premature. So take that for what it is. That was a great. He got out the pocket and he found Sanders out down the field. That's great. That moves the chains. I think Carson did fine. I think he was he had 2 touchdowns and some 200 plus yards, and he didn't have a lot of terrible throws like he did in Atlanta. Like some of the throws he made there were just head scratchers. I really questioned a lot of things about Carson Wentz after that game, and that was frustrating because usually everything I turn to when I look at this team and go, oh, we always have Wentz, so we can always win a game. I saw that today as well. I was literally thinking, as long as we have Carson Wentz in this game, we can win it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. That is what to me it all comes down to. When you can say that about a guy, that is your guy.
Oh,
and he did enough today for them to win this game. And the last drive, if Mac Hollins catches that 15-yard pass over the middle, boom, you get into field goal range, you got a new set of downs. JJ caught the football, boom, you have a touchdown. You can go ahead. Had Nelly caught the ball in last week, boom, you have a touchdown. The whole writing around Carson Wentz and the context that would be so totally different had these guys made the catches.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, even if we just take the 2 Aguilar drops in Goddard, forget everything, just those 3. We'd be talking about, a 4 or 5 touchdown performance easily? At least, right? And that it's a very different dialogue. And it's not fair to Pederson Carson Wentz. I really don't think it is at all. I mean, there are players that had mistakes and bad games. A lot of them on offense, a lot fewer on defense. I think one positive point we can really, really take from this, or 2 players that caught my eye, one of them was Sidney Jones and Rasul Douglas. I mean, that pairing, as you know, I think were fine. I mean, Rasul Douglas getting very, very good around the catch point, as he always has been. But Zach Brown, who I think is really settling into this defense now and is coming up with some nice stops, some intuitive plays in terms of run defense. And he was kind of silent through preseason, silent through training camp, even in week 1 and 2. He's started to emerge a bit now, and that's the sort of Zach Brown we saw in Washington, and someone who, in the heartbeat of your defense, while Jordan Hicks is off leading the lead in tackles elsewhere, you kind of needed to step up today.
Yeah, and a thing I was wondering about as well when I saw this game, there was one specific play. I don't want to get into details of it. It was simple power, and you had the puller coming from Nigel Bradham's side, and he didn't see it, and he got over there late, and it was a carry on Johnson 5-yard gain or something like that. And I was wondering, all right, so this is the 3rd week in a row where I've seen Nigel Bradham miss simple assignments, miss a puller to come over and help over the top with Zach Brown, who took on his guard the way that he was supposed to do it. And then I thought, right, so Kamo Grugier-Hill has started practicing. When he comes back, who's the odd man out?
Yeah.
If that is Zach Brown, I am literally going to have serious concerns about the way this defense is run and the way they're prioritizing personnel. Because I think it goes deeper than it goes beyond the level of play. Then you have money coming into it. You have who is the guys with a relationship with Jim Schwartz, because right now you want Camus replacing Najee Bradham, and as crazy as it might sound, Najee Bradham should be the odd man out because he's played 3 horrible games and Zach Brown has played 2 respectable games, and today he was really, really good.
Yeah.
He flew he had a nice flow to the ball. He tipped the pass. It should have been an easy first down, but he tipped it so that Rasul could get over there and tip the ball as well on a crucial 3rd down. He made a lot of plays today, and I'm sad to see that people think that he actually had a bad game when I'm left behind with the exact opposite.
Yeah, and just looking at kind of the response in the chat as well, and so a lot of the discussion is focused around offense. Just a quick call again, guys. Obviously, if you are new around here, it would be an amazing thing to us if you could hit that subscribe button. I've just realised we are 100 subscribers away from 14,000. So if you could join this little PSN Nation, our army of Eagles fans that we're trying to build that talk after games, we would love for you to come in and just have these discussions with us. Philly 0024 makes a point again. Said that Carson Wentz may be a better tackler than our corners. I'll go one further and say Cameron Johnston is a better tackler than all of our corners. But like, what a guy Cameron Johnston is. Let's just appreciate that for a second. I think he's been the Eagles MVP for about a year and a half now. All right, like, he's constantly digging them out of hell and dragging them back. And today he's going out and making tackles. Like, just a round of applause for Cam Johnston. I think. What a guy. What a game.
Definitely, yeah. He had a great game. The tackle he made on the punt return was the best tackle we've seen on special teams today.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. So Dan Kennedy says, hopefully it's a wake-up call. Also, give the ball to Howard. You can't have fumbles. Yeah, I think we've got to bury that into the ground today. I'm sure that Thomas is going to have 16 articles just on that alone. Like, just get all different side of things. Like, it's going to be a very intense week. And now that the tricky part is for the Eagles, this is one of those losses where it can be conceived as like a crushing loss, right? Like a game-crushing loss where you're that close, they have two little opportunities to win, they don't get them. Now they go on the road to Green Bay, short week, who are now flying through opposition like it's no qualm. Like, you know what, their offense isn't great. I think it averaged like 4 yards per play. It's not brilliant, but it's certainly not bad. But their defense has stepped up. And like we've seen today, it doesn't matter what the Eagles defense does if the offense can't keep them in games. And that Green Bay defense to me looks a lot more intimidating with guys like Jair Alexander than what we saw in Detroit.
I'm sorry, I'm blacking out. I'm searching for the result of the Broncos-Packers game.
Oh, they won. The Packers won by 10, I think?
27-16. That was in Lambeau, right?
Yeah.
All right. I don't think I'm, like, right now, it may just be, it may be the cold talking here.
Oh, okay. So blame it on the man flu. We'll see how it is.
I'm stopped in my face with snot. I'm confident a little bit. I think people are overdoing it a little bit going to Green Bay and playing the Packers. I think it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be harder than this one, but it is, like, it's in any given game. It's prime time. It's another week of work. Who knows who we're going to get back? Alshon was like he was literally a pregame away from playing in this one, and hopefully they're gonna like you said, Liam. This is a make or break point. This is where Carson has to step up. This is where Doug has to be. He has to transfer from being the nice, friendly players coach to be the angry 2017 Doug who was standing on the sideline yelling at his positional coaches like, "Get your beep together." Like, you start like coaching up these guys the way that he expects them to be coached. I don't think this is the make or break game. Like, not at all. To be honest with you, I picked the Lions to win this game in every single format that I could because I didn't see how such a banged up team was going to take on a Lions team that were flying high. They have playmakers. They have good players, but I think the Green Bay game, Thursday night, short week, away game, off a loss at home, that is what's going to define you. Are they going to come out guns blazing? Are they going to look like, if they even come out and look promising, if they come out and give me something, I don't care if they go 1-3. We've seen it so many times before. Teams starting off slow in September and people writing them off, and suddenly they go on mad streaks. Like you saw with the Texans last year, they had 10-11 game win streak, and they made it to the playoff. Like after beginning the season, where people are going like, "Oh wow, we have no idea who these guys are." So Green Bay is going to be a big game. I need to see good stuff out of that game. Not necessarily win, but I need to see good stuff.
Do you know what? Looking at the schedule, though, I don't even think that it's going to be the Green Bay game that defines it. It's that if they go in, like we said, any team in the NFL, you do not want to be on a short week, off a loss, at home, in a game you should have won against a very good team, right? You just don't want to be in that boat. So now you go to Lambeau. It's not the best home field advantage in the NFL, but I think now the Packers are rolling a bit. It's definitely up, say top 10, top half at least. that even if they get by that, all right, let's say worst case scenario they lose, all right, which is plausible, okay, it's Green Bay, it's Aaron Rodgers, it's our secondary. They then go and face the Jets defense. Forget quarterback. I mean, the Jets should be steamrolled. There's a chance Sam Darnold comes back and they're not playing a third string guy. You've then got Minnesota, who, like Atlanta, are going to have a lot of revenge on their mind. That's going to be a gritty game. Win or lose, that's going to suck the life out of everyone on that team, one way or another, whether it ends in a win or a loss. Then you've got Dallas. Then you've got Buffalo. Then you've got Chicago. All of those teams. That's a tough slate. That's a really tough slate. And if they can't get going against Green Bay, I'm worried, because I can't see how you galvanise a team that has then slipped to 3 consecutive losses and then has to face the Jets and 2 or 3 NFC powerhouses in 4 weeks. That's a tough ask for any team.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough schedule.
This is going to be a defining game now. I mean, the Eagles, they've got their 2, I'd say not bye weeks, but the games they can get away with losing, like the trap games, so you will, are out of the way, alright? What are they called? The mulligans you get in golf, they've gone, alright? You've got no time for that. When Dallas are rolling like they're at the top of the division, they're going to smell blood in the water, alright? The Eagles have got 3 really tough games between now and late October. And this is really going to be a telling period. Like, I don't feel overly confident anymore. Like, we could look at this a month ago, Thomas, and be like, Packers win, Jets easy win, Minnesota, they always win Minnesota won the Super Bowl. Are you getting that same confidence now? Because I'm really not.
Oh, no. There's not, like, in the preseason, like in the off season, we have this magical thing, I think every fan does, of buying into everything that's happening. And then week one happens, and you realize it's any given. Like, it's any given Sunday, to put that famous phrase, like, just the cliche, the damn out of this. That's why you don't want to go out and bet a whole lot on NFL games, because it can turn either way really, really fast.
Sure.
And so, like, I look a lot of these things, if you can get hot, if you can get going at the right time, then you can win games. And the Eagles have a roster that is going to help them be in games all the time. They're going to be in every game. So it's just a matter of, are they going to be able to execute in those games, like at the end? I'm not confident in that at all, and that even adds more to the whole like going back on the Jalen Ramsey discussion. If you're expecting a really, really tough year with a bunch of injuries and your team cannot get it together, are you going to trade away your first round pick for the next year, which may be vital to you adding potential to your team?
Well, the thing is that that's even a double-edged sword as well, because everyone likes to say that the Eagles are in a win-now mode, right? But you've essentially got 2 swords there. So if you're win now, you'll win now, develop later. And that's how win now teams like New England continue to win now every damn year, because they draft so well, they let the talent develop, and when they can't get those plug-and-play free agents, they've got someone to step up and shoulder the burden. And the Eagles, now we saw it this year, you look at Andre Dillard, you look at Miles Sanders and Arcega-Whiteside, and even if they're not going to go out and ball out in year 1, and Miles Sanders is disappointing, and Arcega-Whiteside can't get it together early, they're developmental pieces that in the, how he's playing checkers, the rest of the league plays chess. So that's the difference here. If you then mortgage that, then it's all on winning now. And you have to sustain that. And you know the contracts that we've got, where you've got Lane Johnson and Zach Ertz, who next year are likely going to be looking for a new deal. You're going to see potentially a few other players. Alshon Jeffrey's now guaranteed for a couple of years as well. It's tough, to sustain that. Malcolm Jenkins is another one that's going to need a new deal. The whole safety position after this year, total disarray. No one's got a clue what's going on there. To mortgage all of those assets for the sake of one player who doesn't fix everything is absurd. It's too much. If you're Baltimore and you've got the depth there, go for it, fine. Baltimore consistently had a good defense for as long as I can remember. Their offense is getting together. Let's just not talk about Lamar today. The Eagles are one way or the other. It's all or nothing with this team right now. There is no happy middle ground. And until they find that, they can't afford to mortgage off half the farm for one player.
Exactly. And I just want to bring it back to this game as well. They had 2 possessions within 3 minutes to close it out. Yeah. Like they were behind 3 points. And if you bring in Rams, he's not going to catch the ball. He's not going to give you that first down.
No.
It doesn't matter how many close games you're going to be in if you're not going to be able to close it out because you don't have the offensive players to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And it's such a tricky spot to be in now because you can look at it. Didn't we see this in... it must have been Wentz's rookie year as well, with how many one-score games the Eagles had. And Pederson was like, oh, if we had these players, we'd beat this record. And the fact is they're not. And they weren't. And it took a year to fix and to find out what was going wrong. And you hate to throw back and compare to previous seasons, but it's sort of all you can do. Because the Eagles have been here before. They've lost games they should be winning, and they've thrown away games they should be winning. I don't understand where we even begin there. Like, if you're going to go in, let's say, shock move, Eagles get rid of Doug Pederson, and Thomas, you are the head coach tomorrow. Where do you even begin to right the ship?
I need that one more time. Hold on.
So just if you are head coach going into tomorrow, they let Doug go and they bring you in. Like, where do you even start? Because there is so much kind of like, oh, well, if this ticks, then that ticks, and that ticks, then that. There's too much of that for me to even get a gauge on, right, that move fixes that sorts that out, and that sorts that out. Like, there's so much.
Exactly.
Like, it's difficult.
And like this is a sore subject, and I'm going on dairy ground when I'm going in here. But like, look at what the Dallas Cowboys did when they brought in Amari Cooper. They had an offense that was lacking everything, and they brought in a guy who's disgruntled from somewhere. Glenn, you could see the potential in the guy, but he hadn't been able to produce at that level. You give up 1 first-round pick. That is the equivalent of what the Patriots were giving up for guys that they really, really liked, like Brandon Cooks and stuff like that. They gave up a first-round pick, 1 first-round pick. That is what, like, they bring. If you bring in a guy who you know has got talent, there's something wrong, and you can get him for relative cheap compared to the potential that he could bring you. You do it. Yeah. Right now, you're talking about Jalen Ramsey in a situation where, like, I don't even know what is this trade request thing. I want to get traded, but I'm also going to play every game. I'm not even going to hold out. Like, this is the most half-hearted trade request that I have ever seen. And basically, like, you could go back. This guy showed up to preseason training camp in a money truck with a weird guy yelling that he wants his money, and he went out to a crowd of 5 Jacksonville Jaguars fans, and he said, "Yeah, I want my money," and he went to training camp, and now he's requesting a trade, but he's playing. This guy just wants to get paid. I don't think it's all that. I don't think it's like it's legit that he's really disgruntled with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to ask for 2 first-round picks and more, which is way too much. You're trading for everything that he is, not the potential. So you're giving full price for a guy who may come in and do some impact, but he's not going to fix your offense. He's not going to fix your defense.
No, exactly. And just looking through the comments now, I think now we started talking about Jalen Ramsey, there has been a flurry of messages about the defense and that the defense is the problem or that Jim Schwartz is the problem. I won't go that far. I think Jim Schwartz right now, I think we can both agree, is calling good games to a degree. It's more the overall scheme. And like I said, I mean, this team isn't built to win from behind. Like 2017, the only difference was the scheme was the same. They're still doing the same things. It's just that the Eagles have 15-point leads. So that if you're going to line corners up 10 yards away, they're going to run 10 yards toward you as opposed to try and drain the clock and play keep away with the ball, which is how you beat this team. And the Eagles offense can't get to a point where they can win those shootouts. So I don't think this is on Schwartz. For me, this is very much on offense right now. And there's a lot of discussions we need to have. Like, put it this, if the Eagles are up 17 points against the Lions today, are we really even mentioning the defense? Are we even thinking about the fact they didn't get pressures or hits or that, there were some plays that were missed by Sunday? Oh, because I don't think we are. I've even said that in a serious point. Like, that's too bad now. But I just don't think it is. I think this is very much an offensive thing first.
Yeah, I agree. The whole narrative is changing everything. If the offense puts together the game-winning drive in Atlanta, if Nelson catches the ball, if Carson checks down on one of, I'm just going to go way specific here, like let's just take a place people know. So if Nelson catches that ball for the obvious touchdown, if Ertz falls backwards to get a first down, boom, they win that game. The narrative is Jim Schwartz was a defensive mastermind who blitzed his way into keeping the Eagles in the game despite having Carson Wentz doing horrible turnovers in the most crucial time of the game. Take this week. If Eagles put one of the two drives they had inside of 3 minutes into the end zone, your narrative suddenly becomes Eagles defense bailed the offense out after losing the turnover battle -3.
Yeah.
And that is that is where I'm at with this. It's frustrating to watch the defense because it always seems like they give up big plays and big drives after the Eagles score. But that's just what it is when you dig yourself into such a massive hole with turnovers, and that's what happens.
Bearing in mind as well, I mean, this defense is being put in situations they shouldn't be in. They get off the field, finally, they get a stop, they get Detroit off the field. One play later, the ball's out, they're back on again. And then they're getting fatigued. And they don't have the depth at defensive tackle to pull out Fletcher Cox anymore. You know, if this was 2 weeks ago, where it's like, oh, the defense is, the Eagles are behind in time and possession 60-40. That wouldn't be such a big deal if you can rotate 3 defensive tackles in Jackson and Jernigan. You can't now. It's Akeem Spence and Hassan Ridgeway. At defensive end, Derek Barnett went out today. We've not seen anywhere near enough from the other guys at defensive end. So it's really tricky on defense to go, well, what do you want us to do? Like, Jim Schwartz is probably holding his hands up. Like, what do you want me to do more? You know, like, you dig yourself these holes. We bend and bend and bend. We hold them to field goals. You go and put up points, and then you just throw yourselves back away again. And that's been the case for 3 weeks. Like, believe it, I was completely critical of Ronald Darby. I've been critical of Ronald Darby since the day the guy re-signed, for crying out loud, and I've not let the chip go. I'm not going to sit here and say Jim Schwartz is some patron saint and deserves a statue outside the link. But there is a lot less on his shoulders right now than is on the shoulders of an offense. And again, I'll bring it back. 2017, when the Eagles are putting up 50 points, you're not even thinking about the defense. You're not even worried about the fact they're playing 10 yards or sticks defense or whatever. But the fact it's one-score games and the offense can't put teams away, now it's a problem. Because they can't get pressure and because the Eagles are having to play a certain way, teams are picking them apart because they can afford to. They're not having to throw 10 yards down the field every time. That's the ultimate crux of it. And I know we're going to keep circling this, but we've got obviously quite a transient audience where people are coming in and coming out. And I think the main thing, Thomas, that people are looking at is that the drop passes and the fumbles are the crux of today. Is that what hangs heaviest for you coming out of this game? Is that the one thing that's going to stick in your mind when you try to sleep tonight?
Yes.
I'll do.
It's just going to be turnovers, because turnovers is what kills. Is what it was like. You have two really, really good teams. They're consistent of super athletes, and what tips the cap in the favor of each team is turnovers. It's attitude. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's momentum. There you go. And you could see it in the beginning of the game that the Lions had momentum, and the Eagles just kept fumbling the ball to the Lions to keep the momentum in their favor. Looking at the third quarter, Lions had punt, touchdown, punt, block field goal, and a fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That is your second half defense. That's what you
brilliant.
That's what you want when you're behind 20-10.
Yeah.
And you get, and one of the touchdowns you gave was the kickoff return. Mm-hmm. So you give up you give up 20 points, right? And only 7 of those came in the second half. When you're trying to get back in the game, it's just abysmal for the offense. Yeah, it's embarrassing for what should be an offensive explosion. And we got all these guys and we can line up differently. And we can take advantage of all these schemes. I really think the offense needs a fresh set of eyes. Someone that can come in and say, why do we do this? Why do we not switch it up a little bit? Get Jordan Howard in there. Do this now. Stop running all these curl concepts where you just have 4 guys that are curling at the point.
And I think Blue Hunnit said there in the chat, the next week will be worse against Aaron Rodgers. I don't trust the secondary. So you know what? That's not even my main concern right now. It's the fact that you know that Green Bay Packers offense, come rain or shine, will score points and be in the game at the fourth quarter, right? Whether they were up 7 or down 7, they'll hang around and punch you in the throat when needed. Especially with Aaron Jones starting to emerge as a good running back. The Eagles' run defense looking suspect without, the bulk that they had there in Jackson and Jernigan. So you now go, again, back to offense. Can Wentz keep up with Aaron Rodgers? And with this cast, with the 3 offensive pass interference, with the fumbles, with the drops, no. And that's the thing. It's not on the defense. We're looking at an offense. They can't keep up. They can't score. They can't start fast. They can't end fast. It's a total mess. And we can look at it and go, do you know what? Well, Deshaun Jackson might come back and everything will be happy as Larry again and we'll forget this ever happened and this is all an overreaction. Or it might not be. Because if one player can change that, I'm worried. For starters, I think that's a bit of a deeper problem. There is genuinely, I think, more reasons to be concerned. I think it goes back to preseason. There is no unity on this team. There is no grouping where you feel like, right, that's a solid core. They'll go out and they'll demolish. Right, the offensive line is being chopped and changed around now because you've got injuries across that left tackle. I don't understand a lot of it, and I think that last year specifically, the Eagles got away with a lot of their downfalls and their shortcomings because of the groupings they had, because that chemistry's there, because you know Ertz is a security blanket. You're not getting that same vibe this year, and I don't know what the deal is or where you even begin it. But if you just put it this way, so my pitch is to you. If we went into this game with Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, and you take out Hollins and Arcega-Whiteside, how much does it really change?
A lot. It changes a lot.
Right. But would the Eagles be comfortably winning? Or would there still be, I mean, we still had obviously the Miles Sanders drop, or the fumble still had, I guess you could argue, an OPI at some point. I don't know. I know the complexion of the offense changes.
I think if you put it, yeah, exactly. I think the complexity of the offense changed, and then you have to see, all right, so it all becomes very hypothetical and theoretical. Like, would it work then against the defense that the Lions were running? And I think it's going to work because I cannot imagine how you're gonna keep Deshaun out of these mismatches. That, like, as soon as you have Alshon on the opposing team's number one cornerback, you have Deshaun Jackson going up against pretty much any second cornerback on a team. That is in your favor. So I think if those guys played in a hypothetical situation, I think the Lions are playing from behind, and then we'll be testing the defense instead of the offense.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back to the Titans game, the Carolina game, where it's the offense leaving the field in front, and then it's the defense that has to clean up all the mistakes.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing. It's that in week one they had that optionality there of knowing that they can force defenses to play back. The defenses are playing with so much confidence right now because there's nothing the Eagles can do offensively. And again, I don't want to pick on JJ Arcega-Whiteside because he's a rookie, but if we were louding up, there was some genuine, opinions and pieces at the start of the year saying, well, the Eagles have drafted Alshon's replacement, and within 2 years, Alshon will move on, and Arcega-Whiteside is the next. Now? Like, is that still the case? Like, is that not the reason why they're maybe guaranteed in those 2 years, just to give him that sense of security? Like, I think that needs to get more attention as well. The fact that if you put Deshaun Jackson back in there, if you put Alshon Jeffrey back in there, the complexion of the offense changes, but it's not going to suddenly wipe away everything. There's still going to be a few concerns outside of that will linger, but they need them back sooner rather than later. And if they don't get them back within the next 2 weeks, when you're then looking at a game in Minnesota, that's when I think that's going to be a defense that will punish you if you're going to show up the same kind of performance you did today.
Yeah, I think the narrative on Arcega-Whiteside, it has to be limited to he dropped the potential game winner. That in itself is bad enough. I was disappointed in that he had to make that catch. Then again, like, look at the context of it. You're missing all the guys that we're talking about, and you have JJ going up against Darius Slay, the number one cornerback on the opposing team. What do you expect?
Yeah.
And that, keep that in mind as well when you're reading everything from Bleeding Green Nation about how Arcega-Whiteside has played this and that many snaps and he has this and that many catches. And think back to the potential game-winning catch as the knock on him, which is totally fair. He should have caught that ball. That is in context of the moment, he should have caught that ball. But let's keep in mind that he's being forced to go up against number one cornerbacks, and he was going up a bunch against Desmond Trufant last week as well, which is not an ideal situation for a rookie wide receiver coming in. Even thinking back to Nelson Aguilar, drafted in the first round, not the second, and we were plenty of disappointed in him in his first year, and he wasn't even going up against number one cornerbacks as well. So just keep a little bit in context before we panic about the pick.
Sure. And I think just a quick note as well on the chat. I tried to position that question to Thomas then, as in, because I know he's got the analytical mind, he's just as much of a film guru as myself, so we'll give you guys the detailed answer as to how Deshaun and Olshon open up this offense as opposed to that. So I wasn't there going, what do they bring? Like, these Eagles would be terrible with Olshon and Deshaun. I wasn't that at all. You know, I break this down for a living now, like, I'm not that ignorant. I just wanted to give Thomas a question because I know he's going to give you guys the answer that you want. David Maybury, interesting point, says, I've been wondering where our screen game is. That's a very valid point, I think, right?
Yes, that is that is a valid point because that limits the rush on Wentz, and on certain points when you have Wentz under pressure. I think it was more relevant last week against Atlanta because they went all out for Wentz. That's a moment where you can like slow things down a little bit. Get your guys in open space because they obviously couldn't run it up the middle against Atlanta, and that's kind of an alternative to your running game in which you can get a little bit into the open space. But not only with that, when I see a formation where you have Nelson Aguilar lined up and you have Matt Collins and JJ Arcega-Whiteside who are big bodies, I'm missing a bubble screen. I'm missing a jailbreak screen where you have Nelson Aguilar in speed. And you have Matt Collins and JJ blocking because they're both potent blockers. I'd like to see that in just mix it in there a little bit. Not the Chip Kelly kind of screen game where we saw a screen every second pass that was thrown, but mixing it in a little bit because you have the offensive formations to run it and you have the personnel, especially right now, to do it. So I think that's a very fair point. Where's the screen game? Not necessarily with the running backs, but with the wide receivers. And don't call it on 3rd and 10 with Deshaun Jackson like you did against the Washington Redskins. You call it in the first, you call it in the second, you call it in places where you think, all right, I might not run the ball to get closer to the first down here. Why don't we call a screen, get fired, get 6 yards, maybe in a first down, and then it becomes easier from there.
Yeah, and I think you made the one point that stood out to me was that especially today, when you've got no Olshon, when you've got no Deshaun Jackson, and you've got a flurry of running backs, Darren Sproles, Miles Sanders, forget the fumbles for a minute, and even Jordan Howard, who can catch a ball and bring you different things. Like, where are those outlets and those release valves? Wheel routes are great when they work, and seeing Miles Sanders run down and catch looping passes, fantastic. That's all you could ever want. But you think this is the one game they'll be a bit more protective of Carson Wentz and they'll try and burn you underneath because they know there's going to be an aggression at the wide receiver spot. And especially, the wide receivers they did have out, let's bear this in mind, Thomas, right? 6'4" Matt Collins, 6'5" Arcega-Whiteside. Like, those are the two biggest running blocking receivers you could possibly ask for, along with Goddard and Ertz, and you're not going to power run the ball, and you're not going to get screens. That's the one thing that stood out. Like, if I understand, you don't want to get Deshaun Jackson run blocking. You may not want Olshon run blocking. You may want to preserve those guys, have them do their thing. But this is a limited personnel group now that would be their natural strength, especially with Hollins on special teams. And instead, absolute radio silence. And that I genuinely can't quite fathom.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was actually I was drawing up a play while I was watching this game where I had the Eagles in a trips formation with a bunch. So you had Ertz or Goddard, preferably Goddard, but he was obviously not well today. So imagine if you had Ertz on the inside, then you had Arcega-Whiteside and Hollins, and you pitch the ball out where you pull either Brooks or Kelsey to the outside, and you chip block with all the other guys to make it stay inside. So you have the lead blocker and Kelsey to the outside from the bunch formation, and you go towards the field side, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine how much space you'd have with Kelsey in open field, and if you could seal off all those small cornerbacks with your big personnel. I'd love to see that.
I know. That sounds like a flip in the birds level Chris comment, that, doesn't it? Just kind of getting a little bit sassy and a bit saucy around it. But guys, we are coming up to the end of our hour post-game show. So if you've got any closing comments, any closing takes, anything you want us to discuss, please let us know. And of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button and I think it's a bell as well. If you hit the bell, you get notified whenever we upload or do anything, which is every single day. And of course, we'll have a lot of post-game reaction coming to you tomorrow as well. There's been a few comments about the cornerbacks and stuff at the minute, but the one comment there from Matthew Lopez that I'd like to bring up, what point do we blame Doug? I think it's a bit premature to blame Doug Pederson. I mean, I think like any coach worth his salt, he lives by a sword and dies by a sword, right? And do you know what? That fourth down play, it baffles me. I will never understand it. But that's the aggression that got him a Super Bowl. That's the aggression that has pulled him out of some very dodgy situations in the past. And I think that's the kind of coach he is. He wants to put confidence in his offense and give them that feeling. And so I'm not going to, throw tomatoes at him in the stocks because he's made one bad call when he's made so many great ones that have rescued the Eagles from the brink in the past. There's a lot to pave over. He's not perfect. There's a lot he's got to improve. But I think as of right now, with the personnel group he has, this feels like when the Eagles condensed the offense down for Nick Foles, they're doing the same now, knowing that they don't have the receivers to execute the way they normally would.
But we're talking about the last fourth down, before the Lions got the ball back?
Yeah, please don't give me PTSD about it.
I thought it was a great call.
Really?
Yeah. You had 3 timeouts left still, right? Either you get the first down or you throw the ball over. Like, it doesn't matter if the Lions get another field goal. You're gonna go down there and score anyway. So if they get the field goal, you still get the ball back with a timeout.
But then that is banking on the defense holding them, and they did take a shot.
It doesn't matter if you're behind 27 or 30 when you give the ball back. Either they get the first down and you're done, or they get it doesn't matter if they're on their own 30-yard line or on your 30-yard line when they get that first down to run out the clock. It does matter though and it doesn't matter if they get the field goal because you need a touchdown anyway.
Yeah, I get it. I think from my perspective would have been that I don't know. To me, it would have felt it's unnecessarily aggressive because at that point you're already looking down the field, right? It could have easily been a pick. Like worst case scenario, it's a pick six. They took a shot anyway. Like it could have very easily backfired and they got pulled out by the blocked field goal and stuff. Just to your comment, David, if I could change it, I would. I've accidentally closed the file, so I can't. So we just have to imagine it, I'm afraid. But by that note, though, Thomas, if you can automatically see that side of it, surely that's then attesting to the argument that there is no real blame on Doug just yet. Like, there are so many factors into this. It's not fair to go, that's on Doug, that's on Jim. Like, it's just a bit of everything right now.
It's small things that you can blame on Doug. Doug doesn't catch the ball as well. I've heard things about that. Like, I don't know who controls the running back rotation. I don't think that's on Doug either. I think Doug has a lot on his plate. And to be honest, I'd like to see his assistant offensive, what is Deuce?
So Deuce helps coordinate the pass game, doesn't he? Or run game?
I think he was promoted to something. Yeah. It doesn't matter. For him, Mike Groh, whoever the quarterback's coach, someone helped Doug out with something. It can't. I think we're putting a lot on Doug. Obviously, that's the easy one because he's the head coach and he has he's supposed to have the general control of the team. But so many things getting the receivers ready is not on Doug. That is the positional coaches.
Yeah.
And Doug is not the one. He's calling the plays, and the plays are there for the most part, at least. And it's simply just for people to execute. That's what it is.
Yeah, it goes back to, and you hate to go back to Chip Kelly, but when it's execution, it does kind of come down to that right now. Because it's not like the plays aren't there, and the play calls aren't there, and he's not putting them in a position to win or lacking the aggression. The only thing I would really criticise him for is, again, the run game balancing and the choice of the running back rotation. But outside of that, all of those drop passes were plays that Doug called, right? And they worked. It's not that the plays aren't working. It goes back to what happens on the field. And at the end of the day, he's not sat there with a remote control moving the players around.
Yeah, and just to go back on that, you cannot compare Chip Kelly's way of saying it's all about execution, because when he talked about execution, he's talking about running inside zone 20 times in a row and going like drawing up a screenplay saying, if we just do this and that and it's going to work. Like, people are literally wide open right here and they're dropping the ball. And for that play, you designed a play where the guy is open and you just want him to catch the ball, and boom, it worked. And that is a simple it's the small, simple things of catching a ball when you're wide open, expect contact, get down. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. No, it really, really is. And do you know what? I don't like leaving on sour notes, but there aren't really many positives ones we can end on, is it? Other than the fact that Cameron Johnson might be the best human in the history of planet Earth. But honestly, guys, thank you so much for all of your support. Quick announcement as well. I know it's not quite Eagles related, but I'm trying to think of the date now. So next week, I'm going to be bringing you guys a little bit more Flyer-centric content. I've been accredited to go to Prague, so that's really cool. So for the Flyer season opener. So I'll try and keep all the Eagles stuff up as well. There'll still be streams and film rooms and all the rest of it. But you will get a vlog from the Flyer season opener in Prague, kind of taking you around the stadium and all that sort of thing. And a few different articles as well. But obviously in terms of strictly Eagles content, you've got Thomas. Thomas, what is your Twitter?
My Twitter is @ThomasRP93.
There you go. Awesome, cool. And then obviously if you want to follow me, it's @Liam Jenkins PSN, or Philly Sports Network is @Philadelphia SN. And guys, if you can hit that subscribe button, that would be absolutely amazing. If not, don't worry, I'm sure we'll see you next week at some point. But thanks for tuning in and venting your frustrations. I know it's been a little bit emotional, and we'll see you next time.
Only soul that has no helper above. Maybe I'm just alone. I trust my gut, but I've never let it go. So far now I wanna know what you thought you had done when you allow me to be all the things that I'm not. Well, it seems like I'm caught every time you remind me. You're right to take away my pride, to burn it to the ground so we can start again. My crime is a legend to remind, to burn it to the ground so we can start again. So burn it to the ground. I lost the course, the fight to change my life. There seems no time for respite. Maybe you should just go. I changed my ways, but I never thought I'd find no time to hide in my mind. In the hope you would stay when you allow me to be all the things that I'm not. Well, it seems that I'm caught every time